Alright everyone, now it's time for the Occult video number 369, Initiatory Orders, the good and the bad. Of course, I've got my own bias with regards to various orders that are initiatory in nature within the occult. And what I mean by initiatory order, a stepping stone into the broader realm of the spiritual. It doesn't need to be the occult in the sense of occultism, like some sort of actual school of thought. I always look at the spiritual as being very individualistic, so naturally I'm averse to gurus and self-proclaimed mages and masters and things of that nature. Anyway, I prefer to do my own thing. A big part of that has been my literary journey. For, 8 years I think now I've been editing occult works, spiritual works. I don't have any specific type of work that I edit. I don't stick to just, hey, I'm going to talk about the Freemasons. I'm going to talk about Hinduism or something. I try to cast the net as large as possible, as widely as I can, and draw in all the fish, and then of course you have a plethora of different fish you can turn into sushi. And that's sort of how I see the spiritual, and I've done this over and over again. I really like reading. I'm a bibliophile. If I had my way, I'd have an entire fucking library full of books, and it would be very comfy. You have your armchair and your books and a nice fire going. It's a rainy night. There's some thunder outside. That's about the coziest thing ever, right? You have a nice hot punch, some mulled wine or whatever. With initiatory orders, we're going to talk about several different kinds. Some of them are not theistic at all. For instance, I would judge the Church of Satan as an initiatory order. In the sense that if you become, I don't mean join the Church of Satan, if you imbibe that material, having been raised up in a religious background or a strictly secular one, you can gain an appreciation for certain other teachings. Let's say that you were raised hardcore atheist, so you have no spiritual beliefs at all. It was rammed into your head for 18 years. There's no God. There's no spirituality. There's literally nothing. The paranormal is bullshit too. Cryptids don't exist. It's a very cold, a very sterile, I would argue boring world to be a hardline atheist. It sounds boring to me. And as someone who was atheistic for some time, yeah, the boredom definitely played a role in me transitioning out of that horse shit. To be clear, I reject hardline atheism. I'm more apatheistic. I stopped caring about the God part, and then everything else got better. What can I say? Satanism offers you atheism with a floor show. So you restore that psychodrama of ritualism, which I believe is evolutionarily important to human beings, and it can become exciting. That doesn't mean that you stay in that particular mode of thought. It allows you to open your mind and think about other things and say, well, you know, I'm kind of enjoying this black robe that I'm wearing. I'm kind of enjoying the chants and shit. I think I'll research other things. But therein lies the problem of initiatory orders. If you go into any initiatory order seeking truth to be given to you, you will fail. You will either become a zealot for that order, and I mean that's fine if that's what you want, but it's typically not what people are centrally searching for. Or you will gravitate out of it, you'll be let down. If you seek to gain the ability to find truth, or to at least seek it, it's not really about the finding so much as the journey along the way. That's the point of a good novel, right? The best part of a novel is when there's struggle. There's some conflict going on. That's the exciting part. At the end, sometimes you're let down. Oh, well, the character has lived happily ever after. Oh, the characters got completely destroyed. Oh, it's a cliffhanger ending. Okay, well, now I'm waiting for more struggle. I'm waiting for their next adventure. I want Huck Finn to raft down a different river this time with his servant, or whatever you deem him. I want Huck Finn to have another adventure. That was pretty cool. He needs to go out into the woods now and hunt bears or something like that. He needs to become a logger. That's the whole point, correct? It's about stimulation. It's about excitement. And it's about, in the sense of spirituality, wisdom. It's a search for truth. But the search is what matters. You're taking the effort to do it. You are searching for truth. The initiatory order can give you the tools that you need to desire to search for truth. That's a proper initiatory order. If the order is attempting to tell you we have the final truth and the only truth and you have to stay here, otherwise you're going to be punished in some way or let down, I would see that as unfortunate. And more of the wise religions and spiritual systems of the world don't really do that. For instance, if you look at Hinduism, there are 1,000 different schools of Hinduism. You can go off and be an agori. You can piss on other people, completely destroy your fear of death, cut yourself, and drink liquefied brains and crazy shit like that. And it's a form of live-action Ashubha, actually. It's the complete defeat of death and fear and so forth. Even that would be initiatory in nature, in my opinion. You can go into paganism. You can study the rites, the adapted rites, really, when you think about it, of the old times, of the old gods. And it's very wonderful. It's very, it's Volkish. It's family-oriented when you think about it. I mean, if you want sacrifice and shit like that, you'll have to look at the rituals of Judeo-Christianity. Certain Christian groups, certainly the Orthodoxy would be highly initiatory, with various chants. There is a highly ingrained folkloric mechanism within the Orthodox community, one that I deeply respect. It's different from mainline Christianity as practiced in most of the Western world. These orders can give you the tools that you need, but you sort of have to be choosy. Theosophy is a great example. The best example that I can give is Rudolf Steiner leaving Theosophy after he imbibed everything that he could from it because he was such a brutal academic and so much of a book learner and so in tune with the concept of learning that he had learned all that he could. He had doctrinal differences from Annie Besant specifically and the leadership of Theosophy in more general sense, Leadbeater I think at the time, and others, that he decided to form his own group, and he said, look, some of your ideas are great, some of your ideas suck ass. I'm going to go and make the Waldorf school system, which is partially a good thing. It's not perfect, but it has some advantages. Yeah, kids should be outside, running around in nature in order to learn. I think that that's a good thing. It's, again, very Volkish. You'll find that that's a common theme within systems that I feel are positive. That is, there is a communal aspect, but ultimately it is partially about individual learning. And that is what I feel is most important within spirituality. An individual cannot simply be... The problem is we don't teach critical thinking in schools. If we did that, then we wouldn't have this fucking problem. Teach a person that it is possible to stretch their mind out beyond what they passively imbibe, learning for tests in school, being told what the rules are by a government, by their parents, etc., learning how to think for themselves logically and rationally. The funny part is that that rational thought applied to spirituality brings forth things that would not be considered in the secular sense rational. An initiatory order can burn off all the old dross that you've been forced upon you, again, by parents, legal systems, religious scholars, whatever. It can free you up of guilt and fear if you were raised religious. It can free you up of your anally retentive anti-spiritualism if you were raised extremely secular, and allow you freedom. But you can't find the truth in those orders. You have to learn under those orders. You don't have to join them. You can read their literature. It tends to be freely available because they want people to read it. Read the literature, read 5 or 6 books, and your life can improve. But it improves because you are brought to a state of mind where you wish for it to improve. That is, that the whole concept of initiation is just a stepping stone. This was the case in the ancient mysteries. There were entirely, totally different grades and different schools and so forth. The core concept is the same. You join the initiatory order, and you learn the mysteries. And you slowly go up through the ranks, if you can call them. And the Freemasonry works the same way. And you imbibe certain mystery traditions and slowly get revealed more and more truth. You're learning in the process critical thinking, hopefully, self-control, hopefully. That's part of critical thinking. It tends to be innate, but it tends to be specifically taught. And you're learning different truths. Once you have imbibed these initiatory steps, you're on your own. The hope is that by then you have a lust for learning about these things. You will attempt to penetrate the mysteries. You will attempt to read as many books as possible. You will attempt to study things, to quantify them. In some cases, this even leads to science. When we look at Jack Parsons and some of these individuals, we're looking at effectively geniuses that are involved with high-level fucking nuclear physics and shit like that, and rocket mechanics, who are then doing OTO rituals. I see that as a positive thing. That's the way spirituality ultimately is meant to be. If it's just collective, or it's just legalistic, I don't even see how that's real spirituality. Therefore, the use of an initiatory order is to allow you, the individual, the godlike individual, the ascended, enlightened individual, with the spark of light within you, with the spark of wisdom and the lust to increase it, to go forth and to do so. It can give you basic guidelines. It can correct, I would use that term generally, correct your way of thinking beyond the dross that is meant for the masses, and religion and anti-religion too are important for 99% of the population because they don't have that lust and they never will. If though you have been led to initiation, if you have decided to study the spiritual in a manner outside of organized religion or organized anti-religion, again, hardline atheism tends to function in the same basic way from an occult perspective, then you can thrive if you have been given that initiation and you sort of get it. And there's no guarantee that you do. In some cases, a person will say, what? It's a bunch of fucking mumbo-jumbo. I don't know what the fuck I'm reading. Well, then maybe a mainline religion is for you. Then that's fine. I mean, if that's, you know, the adeptness that you've been led to, if that's what comforts you and gives you meaning in life and stuff, well, what's the problem? There's nothing wrong with that. You feel better, and you do better, and you try a little harder because you think you're doing it for a god. You feel better because you don't think there's any hell, or you're a total atheist. You don't have any guilt or fear because you don't think anything's objective, and so the hope is that instead of becoming a blind hedonist and destroying yourself and others, you try harder. You say, well, the only thing that matters is this secular stuff. I'm going to go off and do like biology or something. That's great. It's improved your life still. Effectively, though, you can transmogrify yourself out of that mode and potentially awaken yourself to bigger things through an initiatory step. That typically involves initiatory literature. I would not recommend joining any particular order. To be clear, that's not what I'm saying. You do not need to become a theosophist, to become a Satanist, to become a neo-pagan, to become Orthodox Christian. But the literature is all there. You can study it at your leisure. Certainly, even if you work 2 jobs, you have some time in the day for reflection. You have 1 day off a week. Well, I mean, use it for self-improvement. If you think the spiritual is so important that you might burn forever if you choose the wrong religion, I would think that it was a very small inconvenience of your time to study such things. That's about all. Peace out.